Hello, friends. It's Jayashrii with the Finding Freedom podcast. This week, our question is, how do we eliminate negative self-talk? This is an extraordinary question. We definitely all deal with this on a regular, daily, moment-to-moment basis. So thank you so much for this question. Well, this is going to be first I'm going to start out by saying we can't eliminate anything, but what we will do is we will change our relationship with thoughts, which are what self-talk is, thoughts. You can look at this in terms of neurological pathways that are, deep grooves that we've paved, where we're just constantly going back to these stories of basically ego is going back to these same old, whatever's going to have maximum impact for maximum suffering is what ego is going to go with. It knows all of our hot buttons. So, the first job is get out of the head. No matter what the thoughts are in the head, even if they're not under the so-called negative self-talk label, all thinking is leading us down a road to suffering. This might seem like a really bold statement, and it is, but it's true. So, an enlightened being has no thoughts, and this is why. Because if there's no separate self, then who is doing the thinking? The way to enlightenment is realization, self-realization. And what that means is self with a capital S, self-inquiry with a capital S, meaning that when we look closely at the I behind who am I, who is thinking, who is feeling, who is seeing, you will not find anything. Nothing. Because there is no separate self. The body is not who we are. The eyes are not who we are. The thoughts are not who we are. Bear with me, I'm getting to this. This is a really big question. So, what it is that, thoughts are, as you've noticed, not really they're not in our control. They come and they go. And thereby, when we're hearing from many New Agers that we should control our thoughts, that's just going to lead us into a deeper rabbit hole of suffering because it's impossible to control our thoughts. What it is possible to do is redirect the attention, and this is a skill that is cultivated over time. We redirect the attention off the thoughts and onto the present moment. We don't even need to change our thoughts because thoughts are thoughts. Again, the first job is to get out of the head. And how do we do that? We come into the present moment. So whatever it is, there are many ways to come into the present moment. You definitely want to be meditating. That will enable a much more effortless ability to stay present and be in the present moment. Twice daily meditation is imperative. I cover that in other topics, so I'm not going to get into depth here. Also, simply being extraordinarily focused on whatever it is that we're doing is always the way to the present moment. So we can use the vehicle of the five senses to do this. So I'm an artist. If I'm painting and I'm also simultaneously paying attention to negative self-talk in my head, not only is the experience going to be very unpleasant, but the work isn't going to turn out very well because I'm not placing my attention on the process of painting, which is essentially seeing what is in front. You can only have your attention on one thing at a time, and this is why this works. Multitasking is a myth. Multitasking is basically just switching gears constantly really fast. So you can only have your attention on one thing at a time. So in the example of painting, one must lose the illusion of being a separate self in order to do it, because you cannot be lost in the illusion of thought and be focused and one with that which you are painting. So you see what is in front of you using sight. You feel the energy of it. You feel the paint, and you mix the colors. There's, it's such a tactile process. We are possibly and more likely standing with our feet on the ground, and we feel the feet on the ground. We're moving back and forth as we spread the paint on the canvas. And all of these various things, they're taking our full attention. We're in a relationship with the subject. We become one with the subject because we are essentially the subject, because there is no separate self. And when we become one with what is, it's an effortless process to do whatever it is that is in front of us. When we're washing the dishes, this is the classic example, we're doing nothing else but washing the dishes. We appreciate the water running out of the tap, the suds foaming up on our sponge, the beautiful dish and the remaining crumbs from the delicious meal coming down the drain, the sparkle, the scent. Perhaps there is lavender scent to the soap. And we set the items aside to dry. Instead of being on autopilot, thinking in the head about the past or future, because all thoughts are past and future. Being in the past and in the future are always suffering. Another reason why we don't go off into thought, because it's always past and future, and unless you enjoy suffering, then we don't want to go there. This is counter to everything the world encourages. Now, I don't know if you've noticed by now, but I noticed a long time ago that pretty much everything the world encourages, I go in the opposite direction. The definition of society is insanity. Now, I'm not opposed to order and working together, but most of what we see doesn't actually fall into that category, and in fact is creating disorder, and thereby it's important that we allow life to live us and inform us, rather than the conditioning of the world, habits, assumptions, beliefs. None of these will get us anywhere. There's a beautiful butterfly, a monarch. So we want to start to tune into what are our unexamined beliefs, assumptions, conditioning. Because if those are who we think we are, again, we're maintaining an identity for the sake of maintaining an identity. Now, having an identity is also reinforced by the world, but it is the cause of all of our suffering. Again, we are not a separate self. We don't need to compete. We're limiting our source of creativity, power and love when we're doing it from a place of illusion. When we let go of the need to be someone and prove ourselves and hold up a mask and a facade and an identity, we expand infinitely. And we let go of the chains and the bars on our cage, which prevent us from seeing clearly and being the genius that we have access to. So, how do we eliminate negative thinking? There are people that do affirmations and promote affirmations. And maybe this is helpful as it programs the subconscious mind to automatically set course to adjust for those statements. So I don't think these are a bad thing. But I think what is even more powerful is to know that any negative thought that is coming from within your own head or someone else's is a lie. Just take that negative statement like you should be doing more, or I am not doing enough, or I should have done that better, or you're not doing that well enough. Flip it around. You're doing enough. I am doing enough. I did a great job. Flip it around and know that the opposite is true. The only free will that we have is surrender. So what is what is. And to tie ourselves up in a pretzel, thinking things should have been a different way, is totally pointless, and it just drains our energy and doesn't empower us in any way, shape, or form. It's defying the divine, God, the universe, to say that things should be different, should have been different, won't be enough. And what humility is that in that? None. Humility is the greatest attribute that we can have. This is its own topic. To know that it is not I, but it is the divine working through me. We let go and we let God. And we take a deep breath and we relax. We know that the stories of something wrong and not enough are lies from the ego. We turn those around on their head and we see that the opposite is true. We look at those negative thoughts as the peanut gallery. Consider it to be a comedy show, because it is. We need not take it seriously. The other thing that comes to mind is having excellent self-care. So when we're sleep deprived, those negative stories can get a very easy hold on us, and everything is magnified tenfold, right? So we eat a healthy, living, plant-based diet, which has an incredible vibration. Fruits weigh in at 8 to 10,000 angstroms. Dead animals come in at 0, and we're ingesting death and all the terror that the animal went through. So if we want to have that really high vibe, one with God, one with the divine, however you like to call it, the universe, nature, we eat a beautiful, colorful, high vibe, plant-based diet. We get plenty of sleep. We meditate twice a day. We limit what we ingest in terms of information. TV. I don't have one. I would highly recommend that. It's the best. I grew up with one, and without one, and I'm so grateful. Reading excellent books. I go straight to the masters. I don't depend on man for my my spirituality, because there are masters, timeless masters, whose wisdom will never go out of style. It will always be applicable. So we root ourselves in that which never changes, the wisdom of the greats, and knowing who we are, which is in fact the divine. We take care of our body, our temple, this vessel, and we remember that we are nothing. We have the humility to know that everything is from God. Everything is a gift to continually let go and let God. And when we hear voices of negative self-talk, we can also make a recording for ourselves. There are probably a few particular scenarios that go around, on cycle. Maybe it's about work. Maybe there's one about relationship that we typically hear. Maybe there's one about our appearance that we typically hear. We make a recording for ourselves about what is true. Now, I work with people on how to develop this technique, which is on par in power with meditation. So feel free to reach out with me if you would like to take advantage of my coaching program. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Let me know your comments, and I hope this is helpful. Please feel free to like, share with a friend, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. And share a question that you might like me to address for a future podcast. I send you light, love, and presence. Namaskar.